There is an idea in our culture, a peculiar one, that helping others is always the right thing to do. We're taught from a very young age that to be a good person, a loving person, a spiritual person, you must always say yes. You must always be available. You must always give. And if you hesitate, if you pause, if you dare to set a boundary for your own well-being, well then, something must be wrong with you. You must be selfish. You must be unkind. But what if I told you that this entire notion, this cultural programming, is backwards? What if that compulsive need to help everyone, to fix everyone, to rescue everyone isn't actually love at all? What if it's a form of interference, a way of disrupting the very lessons that life, in its infinite wisdom, is trying to teach? Think about it. When you continually rescue someone from the consequences of their own actions, what are you really doing? You're not helping them grow. You are, in fact, keeping them trapped. You are preventing them from learning. You are standing directly between them and the wisdom that only comes through direct, personal experience. Now, I'm not suggesting we become cold or indifferent. That would just be the other side of the same extreme coin, wouldn't it? The question isn't whether we should care. The question is how we care. And perhaps more importantly, who we choose to pour our precious, finite energy into. Because you see, there are certain types of people who will drain you dry. They will take and take and take. And no matter how much you give, it will never, ever be enough. The real tragedy isn't just that they are taking. The tragedy is that you, with your good intentions, are preventing them from ever having to face themselves, from ever having to grow. Let's talk about 7 types of people, not so we can judge them or condemn them, but so we can learn to recognize them, so that you can protect your own energy, protect your own peace, and allow them the dignity of facing the very experiences they need to finally wake up. Number 1, the chronically lazy. There is a vast difference, you see, between someone who is struggling and someone who has simply given up. The person who is struggling will take your help and use it as a stepping stone. They will use that boost to get back on their feet. But the chronically lazy person, they will use your help as a hammock. They have made a decision, whether consciously or not, that life is just too difficult and someone else should be responsible for carrying their weight. And the moment you step in to help them, you become that someone else. You become the person they depend on, not because they are incapable of doing things themselves, but because they have discovered that if they wait long enough, someone else will always do it for them. Look at what happens in nature. A mother bird doesn't keep bringing food to a chick that refuses to leave the nest. A tree doesn't continue to pour nutrients into a branch that bears no fruit. Nature is very clear about this. If something is not producing, if it's not contributing, it is eventually cut off. This isn't cruelty. This is wisdom. The chronically lazy person will always have a library of excuses. They will tell you about their difficult childhood, their string of bad luck, their unfair circumstances, and much of this may even be true. But here is the question you must ask. What are they doing about it right now? Are they taking any steps, however small, to change their own situation? Or are they simply waiting for another rescuer to come along and fix it for them? When you help someone who refuses to help themselves, you rob them of something precious. You rob them of the satisfaction of their own accomplishment. You rob them of the strength that is forged only in the fires of overcoming difficulty. You rob them of the very thing they need most, which is the discovery that they are, in fact, capable of standing on their own. Some of you have been carrying people for years. You pay their bills, you solve their problems, you clean up their messes, and every single time you do it, you tell yourself you're being kind. But what if your kindness is actually a form of cruelty? What if your help is the very thing keeping them weak? What if your support is the crutch that is preventing them from ever learning to walk on their own? The lazy person needs to feel the discomfort. They need to experience the natural consequences of their choices, because it is only when the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change that they will finally move. Number 2, the perpetually ungrateful. Have you ever noticed that some people can receive an extraordinary gift and treat it as if it were nothing? You could give them your time, your money, your energy, your very heart, and they will take it without a second thought. No thank you, no acknowledgement, no appreciation whatsoever. This is not a simple oversight. This is a deep issue of character. Gratitude is not just about good manners. Gratitude is the sign of a person who recognizes they are part of something larger than themselves. A grateful person understands that every blessing, every kindness is not something they are owed. It is something that is given freely. And when you understand this, you treat those gifts with reverence. But the ungrateful person, they operate from a place of entitlement. They believe the world owes them. They believe your help is their right. And the more you give to them, the more entitled they become. It's a strange and frustrating paradox, isn't it? The more you pour into them, the less they seem to appreciate it. I once knew a man who helped a friend pay his rent for 6 months straight. Month after month, he sacrificed his own comfort to make sure his friend had a roof over his head. And do you know how the friend responded? He complained. He complained that the apartment was too small. He complained that the neighborhood was not nice enough. He complained that he had to live this way while others had so much more. Not once did he say, "Thank you." Not once did he acknowledge the sacrifice. And when the 6 months ended and the man could no longer afford to help, do you know what happened? The friend became angry. He felt betrayed, as if the help he had been receiving was not a gift, but a debt that was now being unfairly called in. This is the nature of the ungrateful. They do not see kindness. They see weakness. They do not see generosity. They see opportunity. And they will take and take until there is nothing left of you to give. When you help an ungrateful person, you are not sowing seeds in fertile ground. You are throwing them into a bottomless pit. And no matter how much you throw in, the pit will never be filled. Number 3, the arrogant and self-righteous. There are people in this world who do not want your help. They want your validation. They do not want your wisdom. They want you to confirm what they already believe. And if you dare to offer any perspective that challenges their view of themselves, they will reject you and your help entirely. The arrogant person is not suffering from a lack of knowledge. They are suffering from an excess of pride. They believe they already know. They believe their way is the only right way, and anyone who suggests otherwise is, by default, wrong. Now, pride is a curious thing. It often masquerades as confidence, but underneath, it is almost always fear. The arrogant person is terrified of being wrong because their entire identity is built on the fragile foundation of being right. If they admit they don't know something, if they acknowledge they need help, their whole sense of self begins to crumble, and so they double down. They defend, they argue, they reject. You cannot help a person like this, not because they are beyond help, but because they do not believe they need it. And until they come to that realization themselves, anything you offer will be seen as an attack and will be wasted. Great wisdom traditions understood this. Their teachers did not chase people. They did not beg them to listen. They simply said what needed to be said and moved on. They understood a very important principle. You cannot force wisdom on someone who is committed to their own foolishness. The arrogant person must fall. They must experience the consequences of their own pride. They must hit the ground hard enough that they finally look up and realize they do not, in fact, have all the answers. And only then, when they are humbled, when they are broken, will they finally be ready to receive the help that was probably available all along. Number 4, the habitually wicked. Now, I want to be very careful here. We live in a time when people do not like to use words like wicked or evil. We prefer softer language. We say someone is troubled or misunderstood, but we must be honest. There are people in this world who are not confused. They know exactly what they are doing, and they do it anyway. The wicked person is not someone who makes a mistake. We all make mistakes. The wicked person is someone who has made wickedness their way of life. They lie, they cheat, they manipulate, they harm others without remorse. And when confronted, they do not repent. They justify. When you help a wicked person, you become an accomplice. You enable their behavior. You give them the resources, the cover, the energy to continue doing harm. And let me tell you something. They will use what you give them not to change, but to go deeper into their darkness. There is a reason why wisdom traditions across cultures warn against supporting those who do evil. It is not because we lack compassion. It is because we recognize that some people have chosen a path that leads to destruction. And if you try to pull them off that path against their will, they will only pull you onto it with them. The wicked person does not want to be saved. They want to be empowered. They want someone to fund their schemes, to cover for their lies, to clean up their messes. And if you step into that role, you are not helping them. You are partnering with the very darkness that is consuming them. Number 5, the incurably foolish. A fool is not someone who lacks intelligence. Some of the most foolish people I have ever met are incredibly smart. A fool is someone who refuses to learn. They make the same mistakes over and over and over again. They ignore advice. They reject wisdom. They touch the hot stove repeatedly and then wonder why their hand is always burned. The difference between a wise person and a fool is very simple. A wise person learns from their experience. A fool does not. Now, here is what makes this so difficult. The fool will often come to you in distress. They will be in a crisis. They will be desperate, and your heart will go out to them. You will want to help. You will want to rescue them. But if you look closely at their history, you will see a pattern. This is not their first crisis. This is not the first time they have needed a rescue. In fact, they have been in this exact same situation, or a similar one, multiple times before. And each time, someone helped them. And each time, as soon as the crisis passed, they went right back to the same behavior that got them into trouble in the first place. The fool is like a person drowning in the ocean who refuses to grab the life preserver. You throw it to them, but they keep thrashing and splashing and going under. And if you jump in to save them, they will climb on top of you. They will pull you under too. You cannot save a fool from themselves. Only life can teach them, only the relentless, painful consequences of their own actions can finally break through their stubbornness. And if you keep intervening, you are preventing those consequences from doing their necessary work. Number 6, the master manipulator. The manipulator is perhaps the most dangerous person on this list because they are often the hardest to recognize. They do not come to you with demands. They come to you with stories. They do not take from you directly. They make you want to give. The manipulator understands human nature. They know that good people want to help. They know that kind people feel guilty when they say no. And they use this knowledge like a finely tuned instrument. They will tell you exactly what you need to hear. They will play on your emotions. They will make you feel special, needed, important, and before you know it, you're doing things for them that you would never do for anyone else. The manipulator is a shapeshifter. With one person, they are the poor victim. With another, they are the misunderstood hero. They change their story depending on who they are talking to. And if you ever compare notes with others who have dealt with them, you will find, to your shock, that the stories do not match. When you help a manipulator, you are not helping a person in need. You are feeding a system. You are providing resources for them to continue their destructive games. And the moment you stop giving, the moment you see through the act, they will turn on you. They will paint you as the villain. They will tell everyone how you wronged them, and then they will move on to their next target. Number 7, the unrepentant rebel. Finally, there is the person who knows better, but refuses to do better. They have been taught. They have been warned. They have been corrected. But they simply do not care. They have made a conscious choice to continue in their destructive path, and nothing you say or do will change their mind. The unrepentant person is not ignorant. They are defiant. They know what is right, but they prefer what is wrong. And when you try to help them, they will nod and smile and agree with everything you say. But the moment you turn your back, they return to their old ways. This is perhaps the hardest type of person to let go of, because you can see their potential. You can see the good in them. You can see what they could become if only they would change. And so, you keep hoping. You keep believing that this time will be different. But it never is. The unrepentant person must want to change for themselves. And until that desire comes from within them, all the help in the world will make no difference. You cannot want their healing more than they want it. You cannot fight for their freedom harder than they are willing to fight for it. And if you try, you will only exhaust yourself while they remain exactly the same. So what do we do with all of this? Do we become cold? Do we build walls around our hearts and stop helping people altogether? No, of course not. We learn discernment. We learn to recognize the difference between someone who is struggling and someone who is stuck. We learn to distinguish between someone who needs a hand up and someone who just wants a free ride. We learn to see clearly without judgment, but also without illusion. True compassion is not enabling. True compassion sometimes means stepping back. It means allowing people to face the natural consequences of their choices, because it is often only through that difficulty, through that hardship, through hitting rock bottom, that people finally find the motivation to wake up. When you help the right people, you see fruit. When you pour into good soil, you see growth. But when you give your precious energy to those who are not ready, who do not want to change, who will only use you and drain you, all you will see is waste. Your energy is precious. Your time is finite. Your resources are limited. You must be wise about where you invest them. Not everyone deserves your help. And saying that is not cruelty. It is wisdom. So ask yourself today, who am I helping that I should probably let go of? Who am I rescuing that truly needs to fall? Who am I enabling that needs more than anything to face their own consequences? And when you find the answer, have the courage to step back. Not with anger, not with resentment, but with the quiet, loving understanding that sometimes the most compassionate thing you can do for another person is to allow them to experience the full weight of their own choices. Because in the end, you cannot save anyone. You can only love them and point the way. Whether they choose to walk that path or not, that is entirely up to them.